Hello, this is John Armwood on the Armwood Opinion channel on YouTube, and I'm here today to talk about American politics as usual on this channel. And this has been a very eventful week. We've had the impeachment hearings in the House of Representatives led by Adam Schiff, the committee chair, and he did an incredible job, a wonderful job this past week. Public hearings started, the most significant involving the former U.S. ambassador to the Ukraine, Marie Yovanovitch, who gave detailed, credible testimony which directly implicated Donald Trump in soliciting political dirt from the president of the Ukraine in exchange for releasing military aid that had been approved by the U.S. Congress and signed by Donald Trump. This is a crime. It's a crime which is specifically mentioned in the impeachment provisions of the Constitution, where it lists bribery, high crimes, or misdemeanors. This is bribery. Bribery is getting something of value for a political or public act. Getting the government to do something. You're bribing an official. This is what Trump did. It's also extortion, another felony. It's saying, if you don't give me this dirt on the Biden family, you're not going to get the aid that you want and that was approved by the U.S. Congress. So give me the dirt. I want a favor. Trump has admitted this. This is extortion. It's also a campaign finance violation. It is illegal under federal campaign finance law to get anything of value from a non-U.S. citizen to aid in your campaign. The purpose of this was to get dirt on Joe Biden for the 2020 election campaign, which is coming up. This all happened in the period from July to September of this year. I've been saying all year that it was a mistake for Congress to not start impeachment proceedings after the Mueller report was released in March. The failure to start those proceedings signaled to Donald Trump that he could continue this criminal activity that he's been engaged in. He has been running a criminal enterprise the whole time that he has been involved in both the campaign in 2016 and as president, starting on January 20th of 2017. This softness, this weakness that the majority leader in the House was demonstrating prior to the release of the transcript of Trump admitting to threatening the Ukraine with a denial of aid was incredibly short-sighted and naive. Trump is a gangster. Trump is what I call the un-dapper Don. Remember John Gotti of the Gotti family? He was one of the criminal gangster leaders in New York back in the 80s. He ended up being arrested and went to jail. But when he was acting out, other gangsters didn't like him because he was so public. He used to dress really sharp. They called him the Dapper Don. I call Don Trump the un-dapper Don because he's not sharp. He's not polished. He's crude. He's poorly educated. He comes from a low-class gangster family. His family have money. They got money from criminal enterprises. His grandfather ran a brothel. His father was a slum landlord and discriminated in housing in New York City. Didn't pay workers. All sorts of criminal activities. Typical gangster behavior. And Donald Trump has brought that kind of behavior into the White House. He is the anti-Obama. Obama played by the rules and was a gentleman. Donald Trump is the opposite. History will record this fact. And it's something that in the future people will look back on and wonder, how could the American public go from having a Barack Obama to a Donald Trump? But it was a reaction. It was a reaction to the first black president. Now they had to have the evil one elected to the White House. And that's Donald Trump, the un-dapper Don. I keep on seeing that video of him walking up to Air Force One with toilet paper hanging down from his back. If you haven't seen that, you got to take a look at that.
Well, that's embarrassing. What's that stuck to President Trump's shoe as he boards Air Force One?
How does that happen? How does nobody see that happening?
It happened as the president climbed out of his limo in Minneapolis to fly on to his next stop, a rally in Rochester, Minnesota. And there it is, the piece of paper flapping on his heel as he heads up the stairs. The president turns to wave. And just as he disappears inside, the paper falls off.
But this is who Donald Trump is. Supporters of him, they knew this already. They didn't care. He admitted on tape to his sexual assault of women, and they didn't care, which says a lot about his supporters. But fortunately, they are not a majority of Americans. A majority of Americans who do not accept this kind of behavior, who don't want their children to see this kind of behavior, need to put pressure on the Republicans in Congress, particularly Republicans in the Senate, to remove this man from office. There are plenty of Republicans like Donald Trump, Lindsey Graham of South Carolina in particular, an incredibly hypocritical senator. He doesn't want to read the transcripts. He knows that Donald Trump is a criminal, but he doesn't care because he's greedy for power. He is a traitor to the United States, just like Donald Trump is. Donald Trump cares more about pleasing Putin than he does about the American people. Lindsey Graham is Donald Trump's puppy dog. He runs wagging his tail behind Donald Trump. He's a traitor. He needs to be defeated and removed from office. He's a disgrace to the Senate, and history will judge Lindsey Graham for who he is. But we, as the American people, have to push the Senate, once the House impeaches Donald Trump, and they will, to remove him from office. Why? Why not wait until 2020 and vote him out? The most important reason is there are people being injured now as a result of it. There are kids at the border in cages still, even though the media is not talking about it. Number two, we have to set a precedent that the American people will not stand for a president who engages in this kind of felonious behavior, that our Constitution means something and that we are going to uphold it. This is very, very important. We don't want to set a precedent where in the future some other criminal like Donald Trump, maybe even a much more intelligent one, because Trump is not the brightest guy, he's not the fastest ship in the water, but another one says, well, what I did is not so bad. Look, Donald Trump, he wasn't impeached. Why should I be impeached? Why should I be removed from office? Even if Donald Trump is impeached, which I think he will be. But why he wasn't removed from office? Remember, we have to act not just for us now, but for the future. We have to set standards. We have to hold our public officials accountable, just like you and I are held accountable. If we had done any of the behaviors, if we had committed any of the crimes that Donald Trump had committed, we'd already be charged and in jail. Under our constitutional system, it is the job of the House of Representatives to act like a grand jury and bring charges, and then the trial is had in the Senate. Republicans like Nunes and Jordan are being deceptive to the American people when they say, we're not having a fair chance. We're not part of the process. Number one, yes, they are. They're there. The committees that are investigating, that are hearing testimony both in public and in private, are comprised of both majority Democrats and minority Republicans. This is the way it has always occurred in the past. This is the way it's occurring now. There's nothing different. The Republicans, Donald Trump, will be able to put up witnesses. He will even be able to testify if he wants to. I can guarantee he won't. But during the trial in the Senate, that is why it's so important for us to make our senators know that we are watching them, and that if they don't do what is right, we will vote them out of office. I keep on saying, we have got to drive down the numbers. Trump's favorability rating, which is around 40%, we've got to get it below 37. If we get it below 37%, then those senators are going to get scared, and they're going to abandon Donald Trump like rats from a sinking ship. And that's who Donald Trump is, and that's who many of them are. So we have to pressure them. We have to call them. We have to email them, type them. We have to get out in the street and protest in front of their offices. We can't abandon the effort like we abandoned the DACA kids. Both the Democrats had shut down the government, and both Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi promised that they would keep the government shut until a DACA bill got passed, and they backed down. That was unforgivable. Even some liberal Democrats have lied and said, well, the Democrats did all they could do. That is not true. What happened was what has happened far too often in America, where people of color have been involuntary sacrificed because liberal whites see their own interests, as being possibly harmed. This concept of involuntary sacrifice has existed since long before the United States was founded. It dates back to the 1670s, but a lot of folks did not learn about it in school, and it's sad. It's very, very sad. But this is what has always happened. The civil rights legislation of the 50s and 60s and that movement, the big factor was there were television cameras and the fight against communism. Read both Brown opinions and Brown versus the Board of Education, and you'll see what I'm saying is true. The Warren Court mentions it in the second Brown opinion. So we have to understand politics. We have to know history. Most Americans are not interested to find out our history. It's important that we know it because we need to be able to pressure our representatives to do what we need done. That is why I'm asking you to call your senators. Also call your congressmen. Let them know. Flood their office with emails. If you like to write handwritten letters, do that. Engage in demonstrations at the local office. Organize demonstrations at your senator's office and tell them either you get rid of this criminal, stop coddling these criminals in the Trump administration, or we're going to get rid of you. Trump, Pence, Giuliani, and Barr have all engaged in criminal behavior. They must go. I'm going to stop now. Have a good day. And remember, resistance is not futile.